What's happening, everybody? Welcome to our what number are we on? 24?
24.
Episode
right.
24 of Perigee. It's a new year. Happy New Year to everybody,
New
right?
Year. Yeah.
I just had a big weekend. My son got married, so I'm working my way back into getting back to work and getting ready to go on a big trip with the CSO. What are you doing?
So I actually, now that it's the new year, I've established just a few realistic goals, nothing too crazy. I'm back to meal prepping.
Very excited.
I
meal prep
so
for the whole week?
Yes. So that's like a 2 to 3 hour process for me. But it's completely worth it. I mean, I don't overspend on food like I have in the last probably year. And it keeps me healthier, right? So I know exactly what I'm cooking. It's all raw, fresh ingredients. And it feels great. I've done it for 2 weeks. We'll see how long I keep up with it.
Every weekend you spend 3 hours, and then that's what you eat all week long.
That's right.
And by Friday, you're just like, oh my God, I can't wait to
100%
eat something
because
different.
it's the same. Correct. So I try to make it exciting. I try to switch.
Like
food,
you just
but
make
it's
like
just really not.
big bowl of paella on Saturday and you just eat that for 6 days in a row.
I do. Yep. And it's lunch and dinner. It's essentially the same thing.
Oh my.
It'll
All
last,
right.
I hope.
All right.
And then another thing is just really spending more time with the family. So realistic goals, right? Nothing too crazy. So those
Would
are
you call those resolutions?
Not resolutions. I would just say lifestyle change. Yeah, focusing on something better for the year.
Matthew, what are you doing? Are you doing anything? Do you have any of those crazy traditions on New Year's?
I don't really have too many crazy traditions, Chief. I guess the one thing I have for this year is I'm trying to learn a new language with my son. He picked the hardest language possible.
Baby talk?
No. He's trying to learn Chinese. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mandarin?
Mandarin. It's going splendid.
Splendidly. It's an adverb. Yeah. You're already struggling.
Yeah, I'm struggling with English.
Okay. Well, if he needs help, let me know.
I'll let you know, Chief.
Yeah. It's hard. It's super hard. Is he going to try to read it or just speak it?
So right now we're just working with speaking and understanding it. In the future, we want to go to reading. So we have all the learning resources for him. It's just he's still young. He's only 5. So I think trying to teach a whole new writing system would be hard for him right now.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
That's impressive. Like he said, I would like to learn a new language, or it's
he's been adamant about learning Chinese for probably like 6 months, and I finally decided to help him.
Let's be honest. There's only one human being on the planet nerdier than Sergeant Felker, and it's his son.
That's his son, 100%.
He's just like level up.
He wants to be a scientist, a volcanologist.
He's going to be the big.
Awesome.
He's going to be the big boss of nerds.
Yeah, like I'm trying to teach my daughter how to speak Spanish, and it's not something that she wants to learn. It's something that mommy wants to teach her. But it's okay, whatever. That's awesome.
What are we going to talk about today?
So today I was thinking, hear me out, that I could do maybe just a few updates, some of the things that occurred.
The stuff you know about?
Things that I know about. That's okay. And then we'll kind of transition to bigger topics discussion.
All right, it's your show.
Works. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, my babysitter and yours. No, really, just mine. Chief Sauvé. Drinking some water.
As I'm drinking water.
And getting ready to give us an update. Go.
So yeah, I know if you're like me, you're still sifting through some of the emails that were pushed out throughout the holidays. But I will say, please prioritize some of these that came through or during and even immediately after the new year. The first one is General Salt's been pushed out, his C-note number 4 on line of effort number 2. So amplifying the guardian spirit and what that means. To embody the guardian spirit, he kind of delves into 3 core traits, being a principled public servant, also in a space-minded warfighter, and then being a collaborative problem solver. Now, we will go a little bit more in depth into that in the Guardian Spirit Handbook, which is still in the works right now. So more to follow on that. There's another one, actually, General Saltzman just pushed out another C-note number 5, which captures his 3rd line of effort on partnering to win. So please take a look at that if you guys haven't. You're letting me catch it up on some emails. And then speaking of book, I know our STARCOM team also published their Space Doctrine number 4. So it's focused on sustainment. I kind of skimmed through it over the weekend. So there's some key highlights there. They discuss best practices, some lessons learned as it relates to sustainment. They also kind of highlight some roles and responsibilities internal to our service, but then also external, how we meet those or mesh those relationships with externally to our service as it relates to sustainment. So take a look at that if you guys haven't already. It is a light read, about 35 pages, PDF pages. I know in the Army, for us, when I was in the Army, it's like 400 pages of doctrine. So in comparison, this is a light read. So take a look at it when you get the chance.
Can we, are we in a place where we're going to post links now when we send this out?
Thank you.
Is that what's going to happen?
Yes. So after this, there's going to be an email that we push out. Everything we talk about today, there's a lot of great resources, and we will be pushing it out in an email. There'll be links and then also attachments for some of those things. So another thing that I'm not sure if you guys were tracking, there was a Women's Initiative Team town hall. So that occurred the first week of January. In that town hall, General Burt did lay out some of the lines of effort and then some of their wins. They particularly focus on child care development. As you guys know, for us, 24-hour ops and ensuring that our guardians are effective when they're at work is important. So this topic was near and dear to the team. So they're trying to find more wins, trying to figure out ways to make this better so that our guardians can focus on the mission.
Yeah, so hold on a second, because
Absolutely.
this is important, because Matthew's a dad.
Yeah.
Right? And a new dad. And do you ever, like, on the weekend, babysit to give your wife a break?
So I parent my children.
Exactly. Exactly. You're not a babysitter. You're a parent, right? Just like your wife. I love that we're talking about this childcare. I want to make sure that just because the Women's Initiative Team is the one championing that we don't forget that fathers are important and that they're parents and that they should care about this just as much as anyone else. In fact, one of the things that they did during the session was they gave an overview of all of the barrier analysis working groups, and we should all be paying attention to all of those things. These are too often framed as challenges for the specific group, but they're all human challenges. They're all big people problems, right? They're not just women's problems or minority problems or disability problems. These are human being problems. And so we've got to make sure that we don't allow these to become something that somebody else is worrying about or somebody else is dealing with. They're all for all of us. And so I encourage everyone to raise your hand, be part of these groups, pick something that you're passionate about, and help other people, and certainly care about the things that we need to care about, right? The human problems. Am I sounding my school? Matthew
No,
was set up. He's heard me say this before,
That's
so
a really good
he knew
point.
better than to say he was babysitting.
That's a great point, Chief, because it's not just because it's a women's initiative team doesn't mean that there are other. It affects everybody, and with the child care piece, absolutely. My brother is a single dad, and so he deals with it all the time. Not in the military, but 100% agree with that. But I do appreciate our women's initiative team. It is all volunteer team. I appreciate all those doing great things and trying to make a difference at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of making a difference, I know there's a lot of newsletters. Again, as you guys are catching up on those emails, there's a series of newsletters that were pushed out. One of them was the DAF CIO newsletter. I believe that's their first one that they're pushing out. Certainly first one for the year, but in there, they provided some updates on some of the things that they're looking at for the year, for the quarter, but then they also provided some cool tips on there. I know as we migrated over to Microsoft 365, there's a lot of different features that we're not really familiarized with. In there, they included a link where you're able to actually access your Outlook from any personal device, your computers. You're also able to access some of the cool tools that come with the Microsoft 365. So if you haven't looked at it, once we push out the emails, certainly take a look at that. There's also tips of how to, I believe, access Outlook offline and still be able to use it. Pretty cool stuff. So take a look at it, provide them definitely with some feedback on other things that you guys might want to see on there. And then S1D, they just pushed out their 3rd newsletter. So in the newsletter, I've noticed from the first one to this recent one is they're expanding. They're certainly taking feedback from individuals, and they're trying to really enhance their product. So if there's anything that you guys notice that is missing or lacking, any questions, I know right now they've essentially broken it down by civilian, enlisted, and then officer development categories. And then they also push out some publication updates and then any upcoming events. So well informative. Anything else that you guys see that we might need to add, please provide feedback. And then there's also another newsletter. It's the All Force newsletter. I think it came and was pushed out during the holidays.
That was for the staff.
That was for the staff. So Master Sergeant McCoy, Chief, he's our MSO superintendent, took the initiative to put this together, and it was just a roll-up of DAF all key updates. It was pretty cool. In there, I think he also even included a how-to request for parental leave. So again, that will definitely be included in the email, but shout out to him for taking initiative on putting that together. And then the last thing I would say related to shout outs, I really want to thank our chiefs, our upcoming chiefs that are retiring. So we have 2. So Chief Tammy Gaddu and Chief Esther Sanford, they are going to be retiring here in the spring. I just wanted to highlight them and really thank them for their service, 25 plus years of service. I know it's a difficult thing to raise your hand, volunteer for first term, but it's also a very difficult task to stick through it for that long. Being apart from family and the sacrifices that you go through. So, just wanted to take the time to thank them for what they've done. And, with that, I know that they've certainly left an impact, not only in the Air Force, but also, transitioning over to the Space Force and really paving the way for our future enlisted force.
Yeah. They, so I've known Chief Gaddu known her husband for many, many years. We worked together a long time ago, and I remember when she came over, and we're very excited, and she's done a fantastic job out there at Buckley. And of course, Chief Sanford at Del 13 and all of the work that we've done on standing up PME and all the developmental education, all of that running through her and Colonel Lindhorst. So really to set our service up for success and do these things that are foundational to us as a service and not all that easy, right? I mean, really
right,
complicated things. And so, as both of them head into retirement, we'll miss them a lot. And unfortunately, we know that they've set others up to follow in their footsteps. So it's really good, pretty neat. So, thanks, ladies. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. And so that also reminds me, Chief, speaking of, the future of our enlisted force, I know we have our supplemental board coming up in the summer, or in the spring, I believe, correct?
May, I think.
In May, yeah. That's right. So that'll be capturing all our E136 and then our supplementals, E8, E9.
Yeah, so we did have a few, I don't remember how many, more than a handful, but less than a couple dozen, right? Like not a lot, but we had some folks that for various reasons weren't able to be considered for promotion in the E89 promotion board that we had a couple months ago. So that list is out there, and what they need, records updated, etc. It's good because there was some concern, right? Well, what if this and what if that? And the answer is, well, then we'll catch you in the supplemental. So you got to wait a little bit, but there's a path to consideration for everybody, no matter what service you came over from, no matter what's wrong with your records. We fix it, and then you'll be supplementally considered in May. So that list is out there. If you believe that you didn't get considered and you should have been considered, or if you see an error in your file and you haven't been contacted, then, raise your hand, go to your, shoot us a note, and we'll make sure that you're on the right list. But I think we've locked that down. I think everybody that needs to know is everybody that needs to know knows.
Correct.
All right. Is that it? Is that your whole?
I think
you're like an auctioneer over there.
Yeah.
You're like just whipping through stuff.
Just want to make sure we get those out there before we kind of transition over to just a discussion on some hot items that we have right now, like parental leave. I know is a big piece right now.
Yeah, so the parental leave policy came out from OSD right before the new year, and the Air Force, Space Force policies quickly followed. The one thing that I think may be important to know about the process is OSD did everything possible to take advantage of the law. In other words, we gave the most leave allowed by law. They had to draw a line somewhere, and there was some questions when it came out, like, how come if I took all my leave, I don't get these additional days? If I didn't take all my leave, I do, even though, or if that person didn't take all their leave and they do, even though their child was born before my child. It's true. You have to draw the line somewhere, and we could have simply put a line in the sand and not let anyone before that take any additional days. That would have been one way to do it. But the way to take the most advantage of the law that we were allowed was that there was an opportunity that if you hadn't taken all of your leave, then it would automatically get updated to the new number. So that's why those folks got extra or are getting extra. And I think it's important that we look at this through the frame that this is good news for the people that were able to get it, and for the other people, it's just the best that we could do. The law was very carefully worded. We did go and sit down with OSD directly and talk through this. So it's one of these instances where the building did everything that we could, and we should all be super happy and realize that, man, I'm bummed out because, it didn't break my way. That happens with policy. It happens all the time. Please choose to be excited for the folks that were given a really cool bonus of a few weeks, and let's high five them and not be too upset that, as luck, happenstance, timing put us on the left side of the line.
Chief, I'd say it's still a win. Otherwise, that group would not be able to take leave. So I think it's still a great win. Absolutely.
It's a big win.
Chief, the Secretary of the Air Force Public Affairs also sent out a FAQ, a toolkit that's going to help folks, help guardians navigate through some of the guidance that was sent out.
Yeah. I to be great, there's a toolkit. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the biggest question I saw was how, why this person and not that person. And but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. If you all parents are treated the same now, essentially, whether there's no more primary, secondary. It's just parents. And so if you're a parent, you get the leave. And if both of you are military, then you both get the leave. If you give birth, which is a significant medical event, right, then you get convalescent leave, the same as you would with any other medical event, and that's handled with your doctor. So I think for sure there's a toolkit out there. People should be familiar with it. The policies out there with FAQs and all of that. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. There was some why this, not that questions, but it's great news. People worked really hard on this, so we're happy to kind of celebrate that with everybody.
Chief, you just reminded me because you said why this, not that. Do you know where we are, especially as we are now in the new year with the BAH piece? Do you know where we stand on that? Or
Yeah,
what
so
your thoughts are.
the list was published. It's in effect. We put out the primer. We talked about that last week. One thing that I think is good is I'm seeing in social media a lot more awareness of kind of the process, right? And I appreciate guardians correcting each other or informing each other. I really appreciate that. There's not as much, I think, unawareness of how the policy's done. As far as the like kind of long-term plan, like we've talked about, the quadrennial review of military compensation will address this basic allowance for housing, BAH, and we'll see if that comes to any changes. But the big thing is that we understand the process. We've got some. We're looking into some things in Colorado, in particular on which installations and which services are taking the lead. So we're working through that with the Army. Obviously, Fort Carson, they're in Colorado Springs in a big population. So they just kind of locally, we've got to know kind of who's making the decisions and how they're making and what's the governance. So mostly it's been about making commanders at the local level aware of their options and their choices and making sure they're doing what they can at the local level to feed the right information into the process or kind of line through areas in the military housing area that shouldn't be considered, right? Because they're dangerous or they're either unsafe or unhealthy. Matthew, where do you live?
I live on base, Chief.
On base.
Yes, Chief.
Yeah, right. Where none of this stuff matters. You got
It doesn't affect me at all, Chief.
cool house, good, wise choice.
Yes, Chief.
Yeah, we're also working through that. Like, how are we using our waterfalls? How are we reprioritizing? How are we adjusting that with the market? It's tricky business. Those companies operate a good service. We've got to make sure that culturally that we are embracing that opportunity to live inside the fence line when we can. It really is the best protection from economic ups and downs. Is that, hey, I've got it, and I've got a gated community, my family's safe, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm a big fan of living on base still. I appreciate anyone's desire to live anywhere they want to, but make no mistake that when you live inside the fence line, then it doesn't matter what rent is outside the fence line.
You don't worry about going over your BAH rate, for utilities.
All right, what else you want to talk about?
So
What do you want me to talk about?
In keeping with just some of the recent updates, basic needs allowance is another one that I don't want to forget. What are your thoughts on that in terms of the basic needs allowance where we sit right now, and some of our junior enlisted that might be in that category that would require it?
So I think there's a few things with basic needs allowance and also some of the other programs, SNAP and things like that. One, we don't think it's okay that anyone needs these things, right? Like, or we wouldn't have so many questions about them. So long term, again, back to the QRMC, the goal as a Department of Defense is to find a way forward where we don't need this sort of assistance. In the meantime, we want people to be able to take advantage of the assistance if and when they need it. That means a couple things. One, we've got to be sort of honest with ourselves and not and do our best to raise our hand and discreetly go get help and know that that's okay. We'd rather that you got help than you were too proud to ask for help and that your family is doing without things that they need, right? Yeah. I understand how difficult that is. And so we've got to be as discreet and as and kind of as graceful as possible as chains of command and stuff when it comes to that. So I'd ask people to pay attention, look for indicators, have private, graceful conversations with folks that you think might be in a position where they need help, and then get them the help that they need. We've got members of Congress that care about this. We've got certainly the OSD cares about this. Certainly, within the Department of Air Force and in our service, we care about this. So I'd say do your best to find folks that need help, right, and have graceful, private conversations about getting them help and make sure that they get help. If you are one of those folks, please know that we got your back and let's help you get help for your families, please. And then as we try to figure out the long-term realities and how do we find fixes, it's difficult to get data, but we really will need data as we move forward. And so this will be the other thing that I know won't be easy. It's not easy when we send a survey around to say, yeah, I'm on food stamps, I'm on SNAP. However, without that data, we're not sure we'll get the changes in law, in the pay charts, et cetera, that we need. So however we can help you navigate that, whatever, I would suggest just give us ideas on how we can get accurate data without making you feel like somebody's looking at your life too closely or whatever kind of stigmas or barriers you might have to helping us understand this. Because the better we understand it and the more honest people are, then the better solutions we can find. So I get it that this is really tricky, and I appreciate everybody helping us kind of work through it so that we can get the right long-term, permanent solutions for service members.
Chief, I know for the assignment incentive pay, we have a lot of assignments out there that are associated with that. What's the latest on AIP for some of our guardians?
Well, we made sure I'm taking credit apparently, but the hard work in S1 and in the Secretariat to make sure that we kept the AIP flowing to Cavalier. I actually talked to Mr. Wagner, our Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, last week. He wants to go up to Cavalier for a visit. So if you're listening, we're coming your way. And we joked about it being an undercover boss session. So if I show up with some sort of young, handsome guy with good hair, that's your Assistant Secretary of the Air Force. I'm giving you the spoiler alert now. If he's pretending to be some guy carrying my briefcase, he's lying. But we're going to go so he can see that up front, up close. And I'm pretty excited I always like going to Cavalier, but it'll be good to bring the Assistant Secretary with me. In general, we had a meeting with the policy folks in S1P to talk what is our budget when it comes to different special pays, et cetera. What is our budget? What are our governance models? What's in place right now? What are we working on? What are we still leaning on the Air Force to do? What is a Department of the Air Force process? What is a Space Force process? What is an Air Force process that we are still attached to? And so there's a lot of, to be honest, there was more questions than answers. We've got a lot of work to go through, but maybe not in the next Perigee, but maybe in the next couple, let's get a good kind of rundown to say, this is what special pays we're responsible for. These are the ones that we have input into. These are the things that we think we can tell you. This is what we've budgeted for. So that's everything from enlistment bonus. I think that would be the first one, or an ROTC scholarship might be that's on the kind of prior to even coming in, money that we spend on human beings, all the way through sort of re-enlistment bonuses, special duty pay, assignment incentive pay, all of it. And so we've talked a lot about cyber language pay for computer programming languages, these types of things. So we'll get sort of a lowdown of all that goes into the value proposition that we've got to budget for and have governance for. You can't just say, hey, let's do this. Like, there's got to be a process and a policy. So maybe in the next couple we'll get an update on that. But we are talking about it. I think our eyes are open to what that is, and we're trying hard to sort of look at it differently, or look at it like we're looking at it for the first time, and not just inherit sort of processes and government models from any other service. So I think, that should be good.
Speaking of budget, Chief, I know there's a FY23 Omnibus Appropriations Bill Summary that was recently pushed out. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, I think that's kind of this same thing. So again, we've talked about the NDAA before. I think when these things are published, everyone's smarter when you read through. It's important that we know what our leaders want us to do. It's important what's being paid
Focus.
for.
Yep.
It's important that we understand where we fit in a whole of government approach to deterring the People's Republic of China, right? To deterring
Absolutely.
aggression, to ensuring unfettered access to and freedom to maneuver in space. That starts across the river with what we're allowed to do and what we're told to do by law, and then what we're funded to do in appropriations. So it's worth reading through those documents. It's worth kind of looking at to know sort of the context of everything else that we're doing. Right? Do we got we'll put a link to that too? Do we got that?
We will add
that?
a link to that as well, Chief.
Look at that.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a lot of links.
I think we have to add, yeah.
It's going to be like
for
a
sure.
breakfast at a fancy
okay.
hotel. Like a lot of links.
One-stop shop of
A lot
everything.
of links with the pancakes.
That
None
was
of those
funny. That was
cheap-
funny.
Not
Yeah.
one of those cheap patties. We want links.
Actual links.
Yeah. That was actually fun. That wasn't a courtesy laugh.
No,
I feel like it
I
was-
did not
feel
snort
like it was
there,
a
but
courtesy.
we're also, I don't want to snort. Right now.
Do people know that you have a little clicker and you count courtesy laughs when I speak in public?
Some do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some
Yeah,
some
thanks.
know that I have
Thanks
a
for that.
tally. Right now we're at about 15.
You're a great teammate. Thanks.
Always.
All right. What else?
All right, Chief. So I'm going to shift it over a little bit to, I know Colonel Stevens just recently, I believe, provided you guys with a Fortify the Force Initiative team update. And she also pushed out, I think, like a newsletter or an update to some of our key leaders on that.
So the FIT is doing a lot of work. What they're looking for is not necessarily more Space Force participation, because I think we're doing a pretty good job of participating, but Space Force leads. And so if you think you can give a little bit of time to the Fortify the Force initiative team, and you're well organized and fancy yourself a leader of sorts, I'd encourage you to kind of raise your hand and be a part of that. It would be good to have a Space Force lead to sort of team with the Air Force lead. So that's what we're looking for. This is your unofficial call out. If you're interested in that, we are interested in giving you an opportunity.
Sounds
Right.
great. Yeah. Salesman. That's a good pitch.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
And I used to
Chief.
sell shoes.
Really?
Yeah, like 40 years ago.
What
Yeah.
kind of shoes?
All the
Like-
money was in sundries. Your commissions on sundries was way better than your commission on shoes.
Really?
No one ever left my store without a shoe brush and polish.
The accessories, yeah.
I'm like, hey, if you're gonna drop $400 on some
See.
Cordovan,
See, that's
you
me.
know,
I always
yeah.
fall for all of that. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I usually leave with
You're not
accessories.
falling for it.
and
Like, that's-
the
this stuff's
laces.
important.
You need extra laces, of course, colored of different types.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. What about you, Matthew? Are you like me? You fall for the sales pitch? I always do.
I generally don't. I also have like 20-year-old shoes, so
he's probably making his own shoes in
Well,
the
that's
backyard.
true. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I just got bored one day and searched on
Started
YouTube and
sewing.
found I could just make my own shoes. Like I
Sticking
just order, horse leather from Spain and just make my own shoes.
I'm looking at leather working, but not for shoes, Chief.
How did I know? What do you have tools already for working leather?
I don't. I'm still working on whittling. It's part of the 10 traits you're supposed to learn from Ron Swanson, so I'm still working through the list. That's
Oh
number
my
5, I think
God.
it is.
Are you gonna grow a mustache too?
I'm not a big mustache person.
Okay. Good.
What about all-weather shoes? Have you delved into that?
I do have one pair. It's
Really?
my military shoes.
I only say that. Well, our team out at Vandenberg, I know they've been hit with some tough weather in Colorado, snow as well there.
And Florida,
Florida.
Every- so-
It's- yeah.
everywhere. What that might be the most amazing transition you've ever done.
Really? You
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
I
hey,
think it's like first place.
appreciate
you get a
it.
purple ribbon. Yeah, so lots of weather all over the place, and it's I think it reminds me of three things. One, I hope everybody's okay, right? That's always what we think when we get
100%.
one of these alerts is, hey, there's flooding, or hey, there's a hurricane, or hey, there's a blizzard, and you just wait. You wait to, hoping you don't hear anything else. Hoping that there's no bad news that falls. Hey, there's weather, we're closing the base, or we're moving operations or whatever. And then, for me, then I just wait and I just check email for 24 hours, just hoping that we don't hear any bad news. And we haven't. So that's always the first thing is you hope everything's okay. The second thing, though, that it reminds me of when we see all this weather is how important our employed in place missions are. We don't have the option
Right.
to just not go to work, right? Like our guardians in so many different places that deal with this weather need to push through it, need to figure it out. And whether there's stormatories or whether there's, coop locations, whether that's just packing food because you're going in and you don't know when you're going to get to go home. We power through this every winter, every hurricane season, every rainy spring. And I just really appreciate the hard work that everyone does to keep our 24-hour missions going and to keep us, kind of our eyes on the ball. The third thing that I'm reminded of is we just officially said that we are not going to contract out weather. So it reminds me how important our airmen are in this. Not just our weather airmen, though they're amazing, which is why we're not going to contract out weather data. We've got to have tailored space weather that we need our weather folks for. Also, though, that our airmen, the airmen assigned to the Space Force are part of all of this with us, right? The COPS and CE.
Absolutely.
And so we really I just appreciate everyone. And I think there's just been a rash over the last month or so. It's just been a lot of bad weather around the country. And it was just a reminder of this. So great segue, Chief. You nailed it.
Thank you.
This is beautiful.
And we want to say thanks to all of our support teams that help us through the bad weather, the bad times that
I just
we
did
have.
that.
I'm sorry. I thought I
Hey,
missed
you
it.
got a
Clearly,
purple
I
ribbon.
did.
You're
Did
good.
you take it away?
Just back off now. I just said thanks.
Yeah. But it's definitely been a rough, I think, the last few weeks for our team out there. So hang in there. I know you can't easily just telework and say, hey, I'm working from home. You have to be there to support our 24/7 ops. So thank you 100%. So our next piece here is, I know as we look at,
In contrast to the last transition that was so smooth.
Here we are
This transition
now.
is
Just a straight,
next topic.
just a next transition.
All right. I have a topic.
Okay.
Because, we talked about SNAP and basic needs allowance. And a couple Perigees ago, we talked about commissary. And we got numbers from the Defense Commissary Agency. And I'm fully giving credit to everyone that listens to this podcast, because in the month of November, I think it was November, Space Force bases had more of an increase in commissary usage than anyone else. Now, some would tell me that we can't take credit for that's just luck. So now what I'm saying is double down and go use the commissary even more, right?
I just did this weekend.
Good, but you already did. I'm trying to get more
Right
people,
now.
different people, to see if we can spike it up even more. In particular, they had a huge increase at Patrick and Peterson. So, yeah, actually Buckley too. In fact, Buckley and Pete had the biggest increase. So I don't know if we did that or not. And I don't know if you thought it was worth it, right? Like the challenge was, go check it out. If you haven't been there for a while, check it out. And apparently you guys were checking it out. If it worked, if it mattered, if you're like, actually, he was right. Like that was not as, it's not what I remembered it. then bring a friend and go and let's double down and do more. If it didn't like change your life and blow your mind, then tell us what you saw when you gave them another chance that you're like, yeah, like I'm in, I gave it a chance, and still, X, Y, or Z. Let us know what X, Y, or Z is, and I'll bring it to DECA and I'll let them. But we're trying hard to make that experience better. We're trying hard to make sure that they've got the selection that you want, and the pricing is getting better, right, with the new laws and stuff. So I think let's just see. I don't know. Like, maybe it's got nothing to do with us, but if it does, Guardians, go grab a friend and see if we can get an even bigger jump next time. Because if this works, then I'm going to start teasing everyone else, because that's what I like to do.
Why not? So I know when I went this weekend, they were fully stocked. So I visited the Fort Belvoir commissary. I was there for an appointment, stopped by. And I mean, they were really fully stocked with a lot of things. I'm not a coupon person, but it seemed like there were coupons in every aisle. I took the coupons that I got and that I saw of the items that I had. But I would say, all in all, very impressed. I'm not saying that the Fort Belvoir commissary is a standard, but it was packed too, payday, right? But yeah, it was nice to see a lot of people there shopping.
When you go to Fort Belvoir, you're just plussing up the Army numbers. I'm just telling you.
So I can go to Andrews, I guess, drive.
And then you plus up the Air Force numbers. You got to go to Buckley.
Buckley. I'll keep that in mind next time. I'll just fly the food groceries on.
All right. There's a couple other things that, I want to hit on before we kind of sign off. One, thanks to everyone that's working talent management. We've seen maybe not as many policies change as we'd like. Some of them are difficult, and they take a long time to change it. I get asked a lot about policy and difference, and I always say the same thing, that more important than any policy is the philosophy with which you apply the policy. And we've had really good luck in applying different philosophies to the policy that's written. In particular, on the enlisted side, where we have had chiefs and seniors and senior NCOs know kind of intuitively, hey, this isn't the right thing to do, and pick up the phone, work with each other to find different ways forward. Senior Kensel, who's our career field manager for cyber, and super awesome dude who I think is going to come talk promotions with us on a future Perigee. But Senior and his team worked with the folks at Starcom and Dell 6 and the TMO. So it's kind of this multi Fieldcom effort, this multi-organizational effort, just to take care of one dude, right? One dude says, hey, I actually think I'd be good at this. And in a normal follow the policy, blindly adhere to the rules fashion, he would just have been told no and move out. And instead, Specialist Price is going to Cyber Warfare Operator course now. He'll get a D shred, which is our equivalent of what the Air Force calls 1 Bravo 4s. And that's fantastic. Just because he said to his instructors, these are my capabilities. And then everyone knew to connect and to ignite this sort of network, and fantastic work for all of them. So we're seeing that more and more, where are we sure this is the right answer? And then people pick up the phone. And so to the ETMO assignment team down in San Antonio, to the CFMs here in the building, to leaders out in the field, thanks for anchoring yourself to the right answers philosophically, and then allowing us to navigate policy, because policy always allows for you to navigate around it, not just through it blindly. So really appreciate that. A couple other things. I get asked a lot about kind of where we are with the components and different things. And here's where we are. We as expected got told, hey, you need to look at this more, and what's the future of reserve component? What's the future of a guard component? So that work continues. We appreciate everyone that's involved in that. We appreciate our partners. The most important part of this conversation continues to be, we can't do our mission without the folks right now in the Air National Guard and Air Force Reserve that are doing our space
So
missions.
supporting missions.
Like, we need that help. We need those missions getting done. And however we go forward with a full-time, part-time force, however we go forward with a National Guard, we will have to figure out how to execute those missions. We can't just walk away from them. So please, if you're in those missions, know that we appreciate you. For everyone, thanks for your continued patience. And if you get a chance to be a part of any of those conversations and help us figure out the right way to do it, Chief Todd Scott was in my office last week talking about this very thing with me. If you're in a position to know best, or you want to contribute, raise your hand. We certainly could use the help figuring it out. I think that's about enough for this podcast. We really, I wish you a happy new year. This is a pretty neat journey that we're on, folks, and we hope that it feels different to you. We hope that we're meeting your expectations. If we're not, please raise your hand. Hold us accountable. Make sure that the Space Force you joined is the Space Force that you are building. This is about your future. It's not about my future is, soon to be sitting on a porch somewhere or standing in a trout stream somewhere. Your future is to live with the decisions we're making and the actions that you're taking to evolve and deliver the capabilities that the nation has asked us to deliver. So continue to help us, continue to be a part of your own future. And I appreciate you. Matthew, you didn't say very much today, but that's kind of your normal thing. Just stoic Ron Swanson prodigy waiting to grow a mustache.
Yes, Chief.
Perfect. Was that a courtesy laugh?
No, it was actually
That
pretty
was a
good.
real one?
No, it was genuine.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.